guys, welcome to the Unpublished podcast. My name is Amy.
I'm James.
And I'm handing it over to you.
Oh, you are? Oh yeah, it's my topic today, I guess. So I wanted to talk about business again because I'm really enjoying talking about business on the podcast. And I feel like that's something that we are enjoying as part of our art at the moment.
Yeah, we
is
are.
having the art of business.
Yeah.
And today I want to talk about how we make decisions in business.
Great.
Which is a bit of a, I guess, what do you call that? I'm being a little bit facetious there because...
There's no right way to make decisions in
exactly,
business.
yeah. And of course, whenever we talk about business, like our business, this is just what's worked for us.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's any magic bullet for you. This is how you make good business decisions, and this is what good business decisions are and sound like.
Yeah, I agree. Before we dive into this topic, can we just have a little update? We've missed a week. I just would love to just kind of sit with everyone and chat.
Yeah, okay? Of course. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. I feel like shit right now. It's actually a miracle that I'm here. But I just got a new top that arrived in the mail and I put it on and I braided my hair. And I feel like a little bit better. But James has had COVID and I'm still moving through it.
Yeah.
It's really fun. And that's my update.
Wow. Fun.
I just wanted everyone to know where I was at because I didn't want to seem like, low energy or like a bitch without people knowing that I thought maybe I was going to throw up a second ago.
The weird thing is I feel like you've had it for like 11 days or something.
Like this is like post-isolation period. Like I'm on like day 9 or something. And all of a sudden I was feeling completely fine the whole entire time. And then day 9 whacked me in the fucking face.
I was the one who was like, I'm Amy, I'm sick. Like last Tuesday or something. Now it's Thursday.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, it's nothing to worry. I mean, you were very nice to me, let's face it.
I was so good to you.
I know, sorry. I don't want to be mean to you there. You were really, really good to me.
Yeah.
And I thought I just got it really bad and you had nothing. But then, like, for some reason, you've had this weird kick at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of fine. Just a little bit phlegmy in my nose.
Yeah.
Which
bizarre.
is,
what a journey.
Just a couple of bits of nose spray before I go to bed every night. And I'm good. And still feeling tired, like very tired.
Yeah. We also, ironically, went to Tasmania last week, which is where we found that we had COVID, to go visit my parents who are now living in Tasmania. And so we had a week isolated with them, which was lovely. And for that holiday, my intention was to keep creating and to keep my routines. We've never really done that during travel before, but as we've got a year that's coming up with a fair amount of travel, we really wanted to practice keeping our creative practices whilst we were on the move. And despite the fact that we had COVID, I actually wrote pretty much every single day. I did my breathwork every day, and obviously I journaled every day. I never stopped that. And it felt really good to just know that even when I'm away from home, I can continue my creative practices.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as good as Amy. I still wrote...
you were sicker than me.
I was sicker than you, and I still wrote a few days, and I had a bit more of a relax, I would say.
Yeah, you chilled the fuck out.
Yeah, which is,
Goddamn, you're good
I think
at
we
it.
have very different systems, right?
Yeah.
I think it helps you a lot more to keep going, whereas for me, I'm like, I'm on holidays, so I'm on holidays.
Yeah, it helps. I think I'm someone who needs a little bit more structure than you. So those routines tend to serve me rather than deplete me. But I was just happy to know that I could do that.
I like my routine when I'm at home, but then like when I'm on holidays, my routine is no routine.
Yeah.
So it's like, I go into holiday routine, which is...
No routine.
No routine. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Which I like.
Yeah, so that's our update. I'm trying to think of what else is happening. I've had a big break off social media for the last few weeks, or like 10 days or something, which has been really nice. I felt like it's been a good palette cleanser. I've got so many ideas and I'm really excited to kind of dive back in with some new content and creations and sharing, and I just feel really inspired to come back, which is good. I'm really glad I took that break, and it just felt good to remove myself from it all, because as we've been speaking about on the podcast and online a bit, like Instagram has really been a fucking shit show for creators at the moment, so it's good to just have a break.
Yeah. So it has been good to have a break, and I think that's part of going to be part of this episode. Obviously, is making sure that we're not chasing the idea, and making sure that we're not just going bam, idea, thing, and talking about those restorative periods, which are actually ideation periods.
Yeah,
like you can't be ideating while you're working.
I'm very excited to talk about the ideation, but before we begin, I just want to give the last update, which is that we have cool new mic attachments as of today.
Yeah.
So we're on our couch, and it really pleases me.
I'm interested to hear if you can hear a difference in sound, because the angles are all different, and like I don't think we've nailed it yet, but I think it sounds pretty good.
So basically, it's just like those like arm ones, so like.
And if you were to look, I mean, if you on
Spotify, you could check the video.
Yeah,
on
and
YouTube.
it looks like the mics are hovering over our head, which is, I feel, super professional.
I feel like I can just like use my arms a lot more. Like it's better for me as a gesticulator.
Yes, and Amy's one is attached to our kitchen bench.
Yeah.
And mine is attached to a blue chair on our left that we've like swiveled around here. It still feels more relaxing. Like, it's just nice to be on the couch.
It's nice to feel like...
my breathing feels a lot better. Like I find when I'm sitting up podcasting, I can't get my breathing right.
Yeah, interesting.
I feel much more relaxed with my breathing, and I feel more comfortable, much more comfortable with my breathing.
Great.
Which is important. Like, I mean, if you have a podcast of your own, if you want to start a podcast of your own, I think
Getting
trying to
into
find a
comfortable
position
space.
where you're comfortable, where you can breathe properly. Because as soon as you start to like this,
Yeah.
it's not just that you're going to sound bad. But I start to stress out and start to think badly as well.
Yeah, interesting.
When I'm like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm ready to dive in.
Great. So just sort of continuing on what we were talking about a little bit earlier, I think, and I heard this really great analogy from this guy called Naval, who, you know...
Love Naval.
Yeah. He has some really great episodes with Tim Ferriss on Tim Ferriss's podcast. He has a lot of big ideas. You'll probably, you'll listen to him and you'll probably disagree with 50% of what he says.
Great.
Which is the really interesting thing about listening to him. But he's super smart. I can tell he's a fucking genius. And I'll try and make sure I remember to put some of these podcasts in the show notes. And his idea is like, we shouldn't be working like insects. We should be working like lions.
Tell me more.
So, an ant will just go about its day like one task, set timeline, like very rigid routine or very rigid structure. Sorry, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a routine. Whereas he's saying, and it's day to day to day constantly. Whereas he's like, we should be more like lions. Where, lions go out and they hunt, they take prey, and then they go back and they enjoy the labor, the fruits of their labor.
Interesting.
And they they gear up for this big hunt, go and devour something, come home and rest, prepare for the next hunt. And I think that's how we work.
Yeah,
and it's so good. It's like, what was our last big project? The masterclasses.
Yeah.
And that was like a big, couple of months of thinking and planning, in low gear.
Yeah.
Resting, really slowly chipping away at, how we were going to market it, how we were going to structure the masterclasses. And then it was like, wow, like 2 weeks of really intense work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, we weren't working 100-hour weeks or anything. It's just, it was high emotion work, high vibration work. Kind of. And then we executed the project, and then we haven't really done a big project since. So that went in early March?
Couldn't tell ya.
Early April? I don't know. And we've kind of just been chilling since and rejuvenating and planning our next thing.
It was late March, early April. So for over the last month, we've just had like very just pulled it back. We've actually had a lot of focus on socializing, which is interesting. Like we've had a lot of weddings. We've gone away to see my parents. We've been seeing people, hence why we got COVID. But so we shifted our focus. And then last week in Tasmania, and we did get sick, and so we had to extra slow down. But for me, that was a perfect 7 days to ideate and to start thinking about that next section of what we're going to be doing. And I came back with so many fucking cool ideas, and I'm so excited. And I feel so ready to go, even though physically not quite yet, but I feel like my mind is ready to go. I feel like I'm working in my genius at the moment.
And this is key. First of all, I've just realized the camera's slightly slanted, so enjoy a slanted view. Could be that the picture behind us just hangs weird, but I'm not sure. And the second is exactly right. Like, you cannot come up with good decisions and good ideas from exhaustion, a place of exhaustion. You can't do it. And I'm not saying that, unless you have all the time in the world to create and make business decisions, you're going to be bad at business. I'm just saying that, like, if you have the choice between taking, say if you need to come up with an idea, if you're not in the execution phase, if you have the choice between, pushing through and just like slamming out some project you're not that keen on or a decision you're not sure of, or like taking a step back and waiting until you're hungry and waiting until the ideas are really flowing and coming naturally, using that time that you would have been spending on your business or on your creativity to just fill the well up. I think that's a really good decision. Yeah. And I think if you are trying to just white knuckle your way to good ideas and good decisions, it's going to, first of all, you're going to be so tired that your execution is going to be flawed as well.
That feeling of pushing it is so exhausting when you're just pushing. Like, I know you know what I'm talking about, like that feeling of just like overextending yourselves, trying to make it something work, trying to make ideas come. Like it feels so tiring, and also it doesn't feel very fruitful.
Yeah, like you want to be in a position where you almost are going so slowly that ideas are forcing their way into your brain. It's like ideas are clamoring to get.
Yeah.
You're clamoring. Your brain is clamoring for you to have ideas.
I want to talk a bit further about this idea of ideation because I have this new practice of ideation, which is within my breath work. But before I talk about that, I wanted to ask you, Jamie, like, when do you feel most of your ideas come to you?
Well, when I'm consuming like when I'm listening to a podcast or a non-fiction book usually, or a fiction book.
Yeah.
Like, I was listening to an amazing podcast the other day about, it was this author who wrote a book, The Next 500 Years, the future of humanity. And he's a really optimistic, look at all the amazing technology that's going to be coming out for us in the next 500 years. And just ideas about space travel, ideas about how the economy is going to work, like all these things that come up, and you hear these little small things. And this was just while I was on a walk the other day listening to this podcast, and you hear these little small things from these amazing thinkers, and that small idea will be a kernel which can lead you in your own different direction into something really interesting. And then I'll immediately go and I'll write that down in notes. Like, so usually when I'm walking or driving, or driving's really inconvenient because you've got to try and hold the idea.
He often rings me.
Yeah, I'll ring Amy and be like, write this down for me.
Yeah.
Or I'll try unsuccessfully to ask Siri to make a note, to do an audio note for me.
Yeah.
But I do a lot, just that sort of kind of walking around, traveling time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
How about you?
So that definitely resonates with me too. But recently, and where I've been finding my most like potent ideas have been occurring is in breath work. So I do Wim Hof breath work. And for those of you who don't know,
We know.
Shut the fuck up, James. You're the worst. For those of you who don't know, Wim Hof, I just love Daddy Wim. I can't help it. He has a practice of breath work, which is 40 big inhale exhales. Then you hold the exhale for as long as you can. Then you hold an inhale for 15 seconds and you repeat it for as many times as you like. We've spoken about it before. I really enjoy it. James gets a very strong response and doesn't enjoy it as much as me.
Well, I almost get high from it. Like I pass out and I start to convulse.
Yeah, James.
Which doesn't sound like, apparently it's completely safe, but it just feels weird.
James has a really strong, like, can't remember anything that goes on. Like, obviously, like, he's really freaked me out in the past. Like, passed out, couldn't wake him up, like, convulsing. Like, it is really intense for James. For me, I also feel quite high after a few rounds, but I feel so fucking in my zone of genius. Like, ideas just come to me, and sometimes they're fucking weird and like they don't really make sense, and like, but what I've been doing over the last few probably months now is I have my book open, and I was doing it with my eyes shut before, but now I just write. And like, this is not journaling as I do it normally. Like, the words, like, because I'm like so over oxygenated, and so my handwriting is like, it's really hard to read, but like all these ideas come through, and then I look at it after my breath work. And this is what I did when I got home from holidays, is I now look at all the ideas that I had through my 7 days of breath work in Tasmania, and I was like, yes, this, and I pulled it all into a document for the projects that I want to do over the next 3 months. And all these ideas just came to me during breath work. I don't know what it is. Like, obviously something chemical happens. I just feel so open to possibilities. Like, I feel like my limits get taken away.
Yeah.
Like, I feel less like afraid, I guess, or less like, oh, that couldn't work. Like, I just feel like completely open. I feel high, and it's the best place to. And then I just encourage my mind to think about, work things, which may sound stupid, but like, we know we're not talking about work because our work is fucking the best thing ever.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before on the podcast. That idea of just being unafraid to talk about bad ideas.
Yeah.
To come up with bad ideas. It's so good if you can find someone to bounce it off. Like, if you can find a friend who is creative, or a friend who's in business, in the business world, or something like that, who you can just talk to these things about. Obviously, Amy and I have each other, and which is great. Doesn't have to be your partner though, I think. And I really do think that you can get to a place where you, like Amy has with her breath work, where you can be more open to ideas coming in and decisions, and more open to cool things you could be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from, like, I always find this with my novels. Amy doesn't maybe agree with me so much, but the more novel ideas I get, the more novel ideas I get.
No, I do agree. I was thinking about this a little bit because I've been so amazed at the practice of being so open in my breathwork to ideas, like what that's given me. And I was thinking about how I often struggle for novel ideas, but James really doesn't. And I think it's because I'm not choosing to be open to them. And you've told me this before, and I was like, shut the fuck up, James, stop telling me stuff. But
It doesn't sound like you.
I think I have a lot of fear around novel ideas. It's got to be so and so. I want it to be like this. I can get quite defensive around it, and that limitedness, the fact that I'm not open, means that ideas don't visit me. Whereas in this breathwork, I am very specifically. I know you want to say something, but just let me finish. Fucking hell, I've lost it. Go.
Well, I was just going to say it's interesting because most of my ideas are gobbledygook, and if I think you find the same thing with your breathwork, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you went through my notes app on Evernote, like I've got hundreds of novel ideas in
I
inverted
wish
commas.
I bought my book down.
But it's just like some of them are just insanity. Like I don't even understand what I'm saying or what they mean or what. I honestly, only because I've been in my own brain do the words even spark something for me. I'm like, what? Like today I wrote one which was black hole god, and like I'm gonna have to remember. I think I wrote a little bit more about that, which is just that we have a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy, and most galaxies have a supermassive black hole in the center, something like 4 million times the mass of the sun. I think there were just some astronomers are coming out with some images of it at the moment, which is really cool. And my idea was like, what if these black holes were some kind of consciousness, and they felt the whole galaxy around them? I'm like, I don't know what that idea is. I don't know how it will work. But I wrote it down.
Good boy.
Because, I don't know, it was interesting to me.
I think that is what we need to do. I think this idea of an open heart has been really resonating with me. Like, we're so used to shutting things down and being protective, and like, no, that's not for me, and like, fuck off, and like, but like opening up to the new and the possible, like exactly with your practice, James, and with my practice in breathwork, I think it invites so much magic into it. I think
this is where this idea of being a lion not an insect comes in as well. It's like you shouldn't be mechanically following some kind of business plan, right? It should be, I mean, maybe that works for you, but you should be essentially just waiting for the hunt, waiting for the gazelle to come into your enclosure, and trusting that that's going to happen. Not your enclosure, I guess. You want to be a lion out in the open, right, in the savannah. Like you want to wait for the I don't know how lions work. Do they go out looking for gazelle, or do the gazelle come to them? Who knows? But you get the idea. Like you don't want to be just a little ant mining for the same things that every other ant is mining for. I think you want to be someone who is able to go and hunt.
Yeah.
When it pleases you, and let ideas kind of come past into you, and then hunt them down.
Beautiful.
And follow them.
Right.
Especially once one really, really latched onto it. I'm so sorry, Amy. Are you going to read out some of your idea gobbledygook?
Yeah. I'm going to show the camera. Do you think the camera will be able to handle it? I just want to show them this part.
Yeah. So this is when, get out YouTube, get out Spotify. You can come to about, I don't know, the 15-minute mark and watch Amy holding up. It
makes sense. It says, I don't doubt my success for a minute, but the handwriting is like that of a child, because I get so, I mean,
that isn't your handwriting. It's really interesting.
I'm like, mid breath work. So interesting. Like, and then like really random ideas. Like I saw here, I want to do our garden, and then arrow, Lou, help with bricks? Question mark.
Oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, I understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that these, like, there's no boundaries to what ideas come to me. Just like I let go of skepticism. Notice when you prepare for disappointment. I feel like I'm in a dream. Like all this, like it's all so almost incoherent, but I understand here what I'm getting this particular day, breathwork 6th of May, YouTube ideas. My body fills with joy. I'm so open.
Then these do become, I feel like these also
they all become ideas,
and they become more formal lists of ideas. Like
yeah,
you can kind of and that's what we're talking about. Coming up with good ideas for your business means coming up with shitty ideas for your business.
Exactly.
And or it means coming up with like 10 half or 1/4 ideas for your business or for your creativity.
Exactly.
And letting those combine later, or letting those spark other ideas.
Yeah, this is so important.
Yeah. So it's like there's no magic way to come up with good ideas for business. And even like There's no good ideas. I feel like anytime you hear advice on the 10 secrets to making your small business work or something like that, it's all bullshit. Like, it's just, I don't know. If you're just following someone else's formula, it's going to be really hard for you. Obviously, it's nice to understand those things and to learn them and to get some structure into your business. And it can be really scary. I totally understand that. It can be risky. And you don't want to risk something going wrong. You don't want to put money into something and it's not going to work. Like, these are all valid concerns, 100%. But it's like, you got to do you.
Yeah.
You've got to have space for yourself to come up with ideas that are going to fit you, who you are.
Yeah. So now that I have pulled literally from that book, I've pulled it into a document on my computer and I've set it up into all the different projects that I want to invest in over the next 3 months. And we've chosen 3 months, or I've chosen 3 months, because we're going away to Europe to do a little tour in Europe and England on July 25th. Are you giving me
I just had an idea. We've got to make sure we organise our carbon offsets for our trip.
I mean, get on it, James. Write it down. So we're going to do that. So I'm looking at what we're doing from between now and then. And I pulled from this journal all the different ideas that I have. YouTube, we're going to launch our YouTube channel. Inspired Collective is going to reopen. We're going to do a free session. Like, all of these ideas came to me in journaling or breathwork sessions, and now we get to structure them, now we get to implement them, now we get to build on them, now we get to adapt them, change them, add to them. And you know what, some of them aren't going to work as well as we want to, some of them are going to work better than we want them to. We can't control how these go, but I think that the thing is that you have to make a decision, and we've made a decision about.
And even like our decision to go to Europe for this tour, we still don't know 100% what it's going to look like.
Oh my god,
we just have this idea, like, we really want to go to Europe and spend time with people, with creative people.
Yeah.
And we still don't know how practically it's all going to come together.
We know very little.
We start at a very high level,
yeah,
and work out the details as we go. Because often things, like, so much about having a small business is working out things as you go. Like, there's not going to be some kind of article that explains it perfectly. Like, even when you're working out tech stuff, like, there's nothing that's just going to perfectly suit your situation. It's going to be like, here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you find that amazing, that's incredible. But it's
I think this is really important for creatives to hear, because so many of us are big picture people, and we think that running a business means we have to be really detail oriented, and that we have to start from the small up. Fucking don't.
I think you always start big idea up. It's like, we want to run a free workshop for people. It's like, okay, well, what's that going to look like? Work that out later. Like, work out what platform you're going to use later. Work out what, how many people you're going to allow to come later. Like, work out what your marketing is going to be later. Like, have the big cool idea first.
And
just trust that you're going to figure it out.
And you will figure it out. Like, you will. If you take it slowly, like, I think this is what happens to too many of us, is like, we have the big idea and then we're like, holy shit, but I don't know how to do this, and this. It's like, you will figure it out. Like, you will. Yes. You just have to dare to take the baby steps that get you there.
Yeah, and and then eventually the idea might fail, but you're going to have learned so many skills from putting it together.
The amount of skills we're going to learn from going to Europe.
And this is probably our biggest financial risk we've ever made on a tour, on a business decision, because it's going to be like
really expensive.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But
we're also going to have fun. So.
But we're going to have fun. It's also going to be a holiday, so that's going to be, at least we're going to be. It's not like, oh, not boohoo me, but this is the first time we've probably had to make a really big financial risk. And that's what I'm saying, like, build up to that.
Yeah.
You don't have to, your first risk you take doesn't have to be a $20,000, $30,000 risk.
No.
It can be a $0 risk that you do, use free software or something, or
100%. I mean, what year is this of our business, of working this business together? 3,
4?
Yeah, 4. And this is definitely our first really big investment.
We've made month to month things probably add up to a similar amount, but nothing that's going to be like a big chunk that we've had to save money for, and then, like, hope to make that money back, but not be at all sure that we will.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. I think you build up your risk tolerance, right? It's like, whatever. Like, I'm going to lose $20,000 on this, whatever. Like, because, I mean, it sounds so flippant, right? Because when we've saved the money, it's not our day to day. We're not using it for our day to day. Like, we've put the money aside.
Yeah.
And then you fix that mindset of like, well,
this is a risk.
If I lose that money, then I will have learned heaps from it. I can still survive on my day to day, because it's not. We're
not risking our.
I haven't risked our life. We haven't risked our livelihood.
Yeah.
We haven't risked our grocery money on this. We've risked money we've saved that we can now afford to lose. It's like investing. It's like, put in what you can afford to lose, and then
Yeah.
you don't have to feel stressed about it. Just assume it's gone.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
And if it pays off, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think, if you're betting on yourself and you're betting on your developing yourself and your business, you basically can't lose.
Man, I love that. Like, if you're like, all of being a creative is, and being in business as a creative is just continually backing yourself, continually making a bet on yourself, continually investing in yourself. Like, it's just so profound.
Yeah, like absolute worst case scenario, you become more self-actualized and you learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
Like worst case scenario. And isn't that just, aren't those amazing
Delicious?
outcomes? They're incredible outcomes.
I love it.
And like best case scenario, you have a thriving creative business that supports you.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Ugh.
Or,
I love
whatever,
what we do.
insert whatever your
Best case scenario.
best case scenario is. Yeah.
Ugh. What about when we have a really hard decision to make?
Uh-huh.
How do we deal with that?
I was just trying to think about what we've had to do in the past, hard decision wise. Like we had a hard decision with our trip. Is like we could have extended and gone to America, or
That's
we could
right.
have stayed, and we really just sat with basically what made us more anxious.
Yeah.
I know it's not always the best thing to do because you can run towards. I mean, but the thing is, it was already going to
big leap.
It was already making us anxious. The whole trip. It's like, well, what's going to be a smaller chunk that it's much more manageable and that we feel like we can reasonably do a good job of and organize well.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that comes up quite regularly for creatives is, do I do the thing that scares me, or do I do the thing that keeps us safe? And then maybe a bit of a black and white view on it. And like for us there, we always want to be testing ourselves. We always want to be doing something that scares us because that's where we grow. That's where the unknown is. That's where the magic is. But we don't have to do the number one hardest fucking thing we can imagine. And I think a lot of creatives want to go hard or go home. And it's like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
We don't have to push ourselves to exhaustion. I didn't have to put my nervous system under that much stress of doing 2 continents.
And I think the other thing is like, can you do an easier version as a test? So for
Yeah.
us, the online masterclasses were an easier version.
That's true.
Can
We
you
did
do an
that.
easier, cheaper, lower stress version as a test?
Yeah.
And then that's going to help you point towards, the startup world does this all the time. It's called well, first of all, you could do market research. You literally can just go and ask 10 people on the street, where you come and do a survey of mine, here's, a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
Or you make what's called an MVP, which is just a minimum viable product. You just bang out something as quickly as you can that does like the minimum that people will need to use your product and see if people like it and then ask them questions about it.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you might organize an online workshop, 2 people might come, but you're going to learn a lot about running a workshop. Like us, like Amy's first workshop, 3 people came,
Yeah.
and
I learned so
Amy learned so much about running a workshop.
And you know what? I learned stuff there that I use like on a regular basis today.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about how my energy reacts with people in live spaces. I learned a lot about my stories. I learned about I learned an unbelievable amount to what a lot of people would probably deem a failure.
Yeah, it was awesome. By the way, our camera's I'm gonna have to
Peace
reset
out.
the camera in 2 minutes.
Do you think we've got more to say?
I mean, I think we can save it.
Yeah, we can save it. Let's save it.
Okay.
Cool.
any-
I didn't sneeze or like snort or like do anything
Yeah, you
too
did
gross
really well.
this whole time.
Something I want to say is I really loved how many of you responded to my newsletter the other day.
Oh yes.
Keep replying. I think I did end up getting to almost everyone. If I forgot to reply to you, then because I'm an idiot. But I think I ended up replying to everyone. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I'd enjoy that, but I really enjoyed replying to people who replied to my newsletter.
Amazing.
So
And you can sign up to that newsletter on the Unpublished Podcast website.
Yep.
It's real easy.
And usually it was just that both times that they've just been a reflection on something similar to something that we've been talking about already in the podcast. So if you want to interact with what we're saying in the podcast, then a good way to do that is through the newsletter.
Yeah.
And I will hopefully respond to you. I'm gonna commit to replying to everyone.
Love that.
This week. Maybe
Cap
in
it.
future. We'll see. For the next month.
Amazing, James.
Yeah.
Okay, we love you guys. We're so grateful for you as always. If you've yet to, give us a little review.
Oh my gosh, a review, please.
Love.
We love it. It sustains us.
It
People,
sustains
you know
us.
what? Do you know what? You've all been slack with your reviews lately. It was a great period there where you were all leaving reviews. I haven't seen a review for bloody ages. In fairness, I've only checked the Australian ones. Everyone else could be leaving reviews. But Aussies, what are you doing? I know we've got an election coming up, but
Come on.
jeez.
Come on.
Jeez.
All right, babies. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Grateful. Ciao.